Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Everything is Energy. Welcome to the weekly astrology forecast for the week of February 15th to the 21st, 2026. Caveat that we're at the start of a big storm and my chickens are laying eggs. So there might be ambient chicken noise, and I hope that my internet connection is in good shape. Doing the best I can here. So let's go ahead and address this week. This week is huge for two obvious reasons. On the 17th, I have a separate podcast about that. We have the new moon in Aquarius, also a solar eclipse, the first of two eclipses. And this is really a wonderful time for us to think about, not to think about, but to keep our feelers out for, where we might be willing to proclaim a new beginning and really be willing to work in the 3D world. And then also this week, I'll put a separate podcast out about it, but on the 20th, we have Saturn and Neptune exactly conjunct at 0 degrees Aries. This is a once in it's hard to find whether it's a 3,000 or a 5,000 year event. There's really not a lot of records or our ability to know when these two were conjunct at 0 degrees. It's been a really long time. So those are the two things that are happening this week, which makes this this week carries this profound sense of transition. Threshold is the word that I use in the podcast, but threshold sensitivity is a word that comes to mind. Also, destiny that's coming, feeling called and trusting our heart, and it's palpable that we can feel a new cycle beginning. And we are in Aquarius season. We're at the final degrees of it, but this is still a time of sudden awakenings and liberating shifts. And Pisces season is going to begin as well here as Aquarius closes. So this is going to be simultaneously awakenings, liberating shifts, but then in Pisces, we're opening the emotional and spiritual field. And this is going to be inviting surrender. So let's go ahead and I'm going to kick it off on Sunday, the 15th. This is kind of a preparatory day. There's no exact aspects that are happening here. But as I'm recording today, you can feel it. This is a liminal space before the pivots. This is a preparatory space. And we have energetic pivots on Monday, and then, as I mentioned, on the 17th, as well as on the 20th. So if you can today, if you find this on Sunday, let Sunday be spacious. This is a good day for resting and reflecting and for becoming aware of what is stirring beneath the surface. And let's move next to Monday, the 16th. This is a day of awakening and breakthrough, very much because Uranus is active here today. Right at 12:01 a.m. Monday, which might as well be Sunday evening too, right? We have the sun squaring Uranus. So this is going to kind of kick off the week with, I'm using this word for Uranus right now because it feels apropos, disruption and awakening. And so, Uranus is in Taurus, preparing to enter into Gemini, but not yet. Uranus in Taurus is shaking loose things that have become stagnant. So there might be a sudden insight today or around Monday or Sunday or Tuesday. There might be unexpected changes in plans in that lightning bolt fashion. I want to also remind us that disruption is not bad. It doesn't mean uncontrolled chaos. Disruption just means something's afoot to shift. And while humankind is a habitual creature, so there's this, it's going to disrupt. What are we going to do? We're going to figure it out. We're going to be better than okay. And one of the things that we could do here today is to really focus on our authenticity. So this is not an aspect of chaos. This is an aspect of liberation. Something wants to break free. Something wants to update, essentially. And then around 10 in the morning on the 16th, we have Mercury quintile Uranus. So this is going to help our mind be clear, maybe be even inventive, but the word clarity comes through. Um, and also, with Uranus involved, if there might be some solutions that appear through unexpected angles. So the idea here is creative problem solving, new perspectives, visionary ideas. And the other aspect that's happening today around 4:30 in the afternoon is that we have Mercury trining Jupiter. So this is a beautiful aspect. It's kind of coming off of the Mercury quintiling Uranus. Trining Jupiter is going to really open up our emotional intelligence and enable us to have supportive exchanges. Mercury's in Pisces, Jupiter is in Cancer. So this brings a sense of warmth and wisdom and compassion, which I think you can probably feel is a really wonderful antidote or calming balm. So this is a great time a day for meaningful, heartfelt expression and communication. It's also, we're going to get this sense of reassurance. You know, I say a lot of the time, everything's always working out. And sometimes you can see it in the 3D world and sometimes you can't, but this aspect is going to help us feel it. There's this kind of gentle optimism. So I would just say, let your words be medicine. Let your words be heartfelt. Tuesday, the 17th, is a day of destiny in the heart. Venus is active on Tuesday. I have I put a different meditation up specifically focusing on the eclipse and the new moon. That's what's happening on the 17th. I'm going to gloss over that here and simply speak to these aspects that are happening. And if you want to, you can look back to my previous posts to catch what the download is specifically for the eclipse. But let's start off at 1 a.m. We have Venus semi-square to Chiron. So this is kind of a tender emotional energy. We might feel sensitive around our sense of belonging, our sense of justice, our sense of our heart. But it's important to know that this is not a problem. A semi-square can feel like friction, but it's those frictions come to bring awareness to something. They come to bring awareness, and if we can just place our awareness on it and realize that there's nothing to fear, it's just an awareness, and continue to express and stay present and stay in our center. Just before 9 a.m. on Tuesday, we then have Venus conjunct the North Node. This is honestly, even though I said, the eclipse and the new moon, and then Neptune and Saturn at 0 degrees Aries, those are huge aspects that you could, I'm doing different podcasts about them, but Venus conjunct the North Node is one of the most beautiful signatures of the week, honestly, because Venus is meeting the North Node in Pisces. The North Node is why our soul's here and where we're headed. And Venus in Pisces is suggesting that this path of destiny, staying true to the course, let's do that through our heart. Venus is all about love and justice and harmony and beauty and balance and compassion and connection and forgiveness and spiritual alignment. So this is a nice day to pay attention to if there's any synchronicities in relationships, maybe any gentle openings, any kind of intuitive yes. And, there might be some moments of sweetness that just feel right on time. So the path forward may arrive through softness and staying in our heart. Wednesday, the 18th, we have not a lot of exact stuff going on, nothing to be truthful. So, I like to think of this as an integration day because there's so many big exclamation points in this week. The astrology is quieter today. This is kind of offering us a space to integrate the heart opening currents of Venus that I just mentioned before, and also the awakenings of Monday. So this is a good day for rest, for spiritual practice, and for allowing the clarity to surface and or to settle. And it's a good reminder that sometimes the most important movement happens in stillness. again, we as humanity as a collective have been conditioned to do and go, and that's how we make things happen. Wednesday's almost just like vacuum. Woo-hoo. And if you think about what we know about the universe abhorring a vacuum and manifestation, there's often this kind of vacuumness that happens prior to a manifestation. So really, this is a good week overall, the entire week, but especially Wednesday, for us to really look at the quiet moments when no one's looking. How are we vibrating? What are we thinking? What are we doing? What are we offering? Let's get to Thursday, the 19th. This is when Pisces season begins. And here I would offer the threshold that happened on the 17th with the eclipse and the new moon is going to deepen here. And, sun entering Pisces is a major tonal shift. There's this kind of shift from Aquarius into Pisces. Every shift from sign to sign is palpable. We have a couple aspects with the sun here today. The sun, there's a lot going on today, but there's three things that are happening with the sun. One is the sun is going to semi-sextile Saturn just before 1 a.m. And semi-sextile is a flowing energy. It's going to invite us to ground, Saturnian. And it's going to remind us that Pisces season, even it doesn't mean drifting. Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac, is inviting us to cull and culminate our wisdom. And Saturn is going to offer this container with Pisces energy. So there's this idea that our spiritual sensitivity is well served by having some structure. Shortly after that, on the heels, just before 4 a.m., we have Sun semi-sextile Neptune. This is happening really quickly, right? Because they're almost exactly conjunct. That's tomorrow. But Sun semi-sextile Neptune, this is where, the theme has been like Saturn kind of contains and Neptune diffuses and expands. So Sun semi-sextiling Neptune we're going to feel like the veil is thinning or our intuition is heightened. There might be a sense of dreams, especially since this is happening around 4 a.m. There might be a good day to look at symbols or just look for the signs of communication beyond the veil. What's coming to mind is to listen gently and to be open to whether it's loved ones communicating to us from beyond the veil or just the universe showing us that it's listening. At around that same time, just minutes after, we have the Sun sesquiquadrate Jupiter. So this is going to remind us that, while Pisces can dissolve boundaries, Jupiter can amplify that. So it's important for us to be mindful of emotional overextension and stay close to what is true for us and what is sustainable for us. One of the themes with the eclipse season that I think is going to carry through for the next few weeks is this is a very sensitive time. It's most importantly, it's a time for us to care for ourselves, to nurture ourselves, because we are the path forward. We have two more aspects today. One is at around 3 o'clock. Mercury is going to be semi-square to Pluto. So conversations here may reveal truths beneath the surface. Communication. It might even be that like the conversation helps us both to deepen what we know, or it might be that we're watching something, we're having a conversation, and all of a sudden the bottom drops out and we can see something. What the clear meaning is. Maybe we're even going to be able to read the energy versus the words. So this might also feel like a mental intensity, though, because Pluto carries an intensity with us and Mercury is about our mental body. So in general, this is an excellent aspect for just being honest with ourselves, but also to avoid being obsessive. Let the insight that comes through right now be transforming instead of consuming. So we're going to be invited to act with the big picture vision here. And then finally, around 8 o'clock in the evening on the 19th, we have Mars biquintile to Jupiter. And this is just going to bring a creative surge of courage and motivation. So, Mars biquintile Jupiter, this is going to be inspired action. And this is going to help us not to be forceful or fearful, but to be meaningful and truthful. And then Friday, February 20th, this is a major collective threshold. I will offer a completely separate broadcast or post about this, but I'm going to touch on it here because it's important for this week. This is the Saturn Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries. This is what I'm calling a once in 3 to 5,000 year event. And I'm calling it that because if you try to find, my software doesn't necessarily let me do this easily, but I was looking at other esteemed astrologers and listening to what they had to say about it. And there's some uncertainty, but there's this convergence on once in many, many, many thousand years. So that just shows us this isn't just a generational thing. This is a transgenerational thing. And so this is potentially one of the most significant alignments of the year because of this. And this is the meeting of structure and spirit. This is the meeting of reality and vision. So we have, structure, Saturn, Neptune, spirit. Saturn's reality, Neptune's vision. Saturn's discipline, Neptune's surrender. Saturn might be something closing. Neptune might be something opening, but also closing and opening because we're at 0 degrees of the first sign of the zodiac. We're at this seminal point of embarkation. It's marking a new cycle of collective initiation. And this is where dreams must become real. There's a potential for really, Saturn is going to help us create this container, this vessel in the 3D world. But, Neptune at 0 degrees Aries is going to really make sure that we do so with integrity, that we do so. Neptune, the planet of illusion and delusion, but also intuition, is going to invite us to see through the things that don't serve. And I mentioned this is a vast transit, so I'm going to be offering a full future episode that you can find here devoted to what this means and how we're going to work with it. But for now, let this be that. Let's hold today with reverence. You will hear from me before the 20th with a full meditation, but just know that something new is being born today. And then we close with Saturday, the 21st. And this is another day. This is interesting. We have 3 days this week where there's not a lot happening, but that's because all the other days in the week, there's so much going on. So this is another day for us to, be in the stillness after a major threshold event. This is a good day for us to let the nervous system settle. Meditation, being out in nature, petting your dog or your cat, being out, doing something that really helps you stay present and feel grounded. And with these major aspects, especially with eclipse season, it's not necessarily that at that point in time, we figure it out. This stuff might start to unfold, but maybe we don't need to know what's shifted, but we can trust and maybe even start to really feel and welcome that something has shifted. So as I mentioned, Saturday is a good day for grounding. It's a good day for just keeping things simple, for listening, and for allowing this new cycle to arrive slowly. So let's move gently this week. Let's listen deeply this week. And let's trust the subtle signals and trust that the future is arriving, not through urgency, but through alignment. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll be back next with a meditation for this week. Thanks for being here. Bright blessings and so much love.